credentials, they can't string together the reasoning, they rely on their credentials. Like, I couldn't convince you I'm right, so just take my word for it. I went to Harvard. I didn't go to Harvard. For example. But if it matters to you, I have to tell you my credentials. But if it doesn't make sense, who cares? So I'm from Honolulu. I was born and raised in Honolulu. My mother's from Maui. Her mother's from Maui. Her mother's mother is from Maui. She was born and raised in Paia. She spoke Hawaiian, Chinese, and English. She wrote Hawaiian, Chinese, and English. Turns out she was she'd be my grandmother now, a famous horseback woman, a horseback rider. And she used to, her maiden name was Wong, W-O-N-G, and she was riding horseback for the Department of Health, delivering medicines between Paia and Hana and Hawaii.
Wow.
I have no idea what she was delivering. I have no idea what she delivered were, but she was pretty famous. That group was supposed to marry into Sun Yat-sen. Sun Yat-sen is the father of the Chinese Revolution, and he kind of sought asylum here, and there was an arranged marriage. Her sister and her were supposed to marry the brother and Sun Yat-sen. And just like a horseback woman, after she met the guy, Sun Yat-sen's brother, they were asked, well, what do you think? And she said, I think he's a bore. Or I think he's a womanizer. And he's just a general jerk. So they said, I don't think this is going to work out. So Sun Yat-sen married somebody else, and we start this lineage, and I'm the product of that. And after, I guess, those days, you guys know, or don't know, but in those days, I was born in 1953, you didn't travel so much. And so the first trip I ever took was when I was 13. I came for 1 week to Maui, and I was just enthralled. Then we went to Big Island, and I was enthralled. Then we went back home, and I didn't travel again to college. I went to Princeton University. I graduated with honors in chemistry. Chemistry is good, very useful in the stuff I do now. I went to medical school in Tulane University in New Orleans, and I did a public health. And because of that, I never went back to a reunion, but I went to help in Katrina. And I said, I'm going to go down to Louisiana. They said, no, you're not. You're going where the Red Cross sends you. And if they choose Mississippi or Texas, you're going to go there. And I said, I'm not going. They said, what is with you? Why do you have this obsession with Louisiana? I'm a touring grad, New Orleans. And they said, oh, you don't want to join the Red Cross. You want to call the governor of Louisiana. So I called the governor, and she says, what is your obsession with Louisiana? I said, I'm a touring grad. She said, well, then come on down. What's your specialty? And it says, well, it's kind of like public health, preventive health. And she said, do it. Have a good time. Call me every week. And if you're not feeling useful, call me up. And so they went down for 21 days to Fall. That was a lot of fun, seeing those people again and all that. I never got close to New Orleans. It was flooded. They sent me to the Cajun country, Lafayette. And a lot of our patients from Charity Hospital were from Lafayette. So, hello. And you don't remember me, but I delivered you. But I was after medical school, I was tired of the U.S. medicine, so I went overseas to Brazil. I was an exchange student. I lived there in the infectious disease hospital. I decided to do tropical medicine. Actually, I decided when I was 9 years old. I read an article about tropical diseases, and I decided it's a good thing to do. So then I joined Walter Reed Army Institute of Research. They posted me overseas. 5 years in Bangkok. We worked on the Thai and Cambodian border. We worked on the Burmese border. Drugs and vaccines for malaria. Then I guess I did something good. The World Health Organization said, we're interested in you. Will you join us in Geneva? I worked for them in Geneva for a few years. They sent me to Africa, sent me to Africa, sent me to Africa, sent me to Africa. I decided I should get back to Brazil. So Walter Reed and World Health were sent me to Brazil again, this time for 5 years. To the southern Amazon. We worked on malaria, drugs and vaccines. We We worked on any disease that came along. We worked on the origin of the outbreaks. Then I went back to Bangkok. This time I was working in Bangladesh and Vietnam, mostly on enteric, cholera, blah, blah, blah. Then my parents were old, and I decided I owed them something. And so I came back to take care of them when they're old. So my father passed away, and my mother said, she's still alive, she's 95. She said, promise me when I go, you will go to Africa. We could never live there because we can't raise children there, but our children are grown. And so my wife says, hey, are we missing something there? I said, okay. When my mother passes on, we will get back. So that's where we are. We're kind of biding our time here. Then I kind of fell in love with your issues. In the third world country, anybody who spends a third of their income on healthcare is considered really bad off. And we look at prevention because nobody can spend a third of their income on healthcare. Yeah. We look at the elderly or even some of the poor people in this country, you're spending like all your income on healthcare. There's some homeless guys, they work, they're homeless, but they're homeless because they pay the medical bill. They are actually homeless so they can pay the medical bill. That's kind of bad. So the maneuver you're supposed to think about is prevention. Okay, which kind of brings up tonight's topics. First of all, I operate on the precautionary principle. If you don't know what you're doing, don't do it. Especially if it's irreversible, especially if it affects the other guy, spreads, and especially if you can't stop what you're doing. And you said, wait, you said that twice. If it's irreversible, then you can't stop it. No, irreversible is the damage it caused you cannot be fixed. That's irreversible. And thank goodness I stopped it in time. Not stoppable is like a life form, like pneumonia, coqui frog, fire ant. That goes and goes and goes. So once again, if you don't really know all the consequences that you're doing, please don't do it. Especially if it's irreversible, affects the other guy, and you cannot recall it. Okay, just remember that. That's called the precautionary principle. They will tell you, maybe a lot of these people who, strange people, well, nothing is safe. You could cross the street and get hit by a truck, so why don't you just let us use these things? Nothing is safe. That has nothing to do with the precautionary principle. I never said anything had to be perfectly safe. You have to know the risks and benefits, weigh them against each other, weigh them against the alternatives, and decide whether or not you're going to use them. For example, chemotherapy, cancer chemotherapy, that ain't safe, but it operates on the precautionary principle. You know the risk of taking it, you know the risk of not taking it, you know the alternatives. So time and time again, Monsanto has brought over people who start off the precautionary principle. That's John. And he said, what exactly do you believe in? We believe in calculated risk. Calculated risk is the precautionary principle, at least how we used to teach it. Okay, the next thing I want to tell you is please, don't read intention. Oh, what does that mean? Well, suppose I'm spraying the field with product X. Well, that's bad. What's product X? Did you check this out? Do you know what it does? Well, that's enough for me. Joel is spraying the field with product X. I don't care what his intention is. I don't care what you say his intention is. For example, if we're spraying chemicals in the air, some people say that's mind control. I don't know, I don't care, and it's a little bit dangerous to say it's mind control, because if somebody proves that it ain't mind control, you've lost all your credibility. Okay. So don't try to read intention. It's enough for me just to know what you're doing and that you haven't really checked out all the safety. That's the biggest way to lose credibility. Trying to second guess why the person's doing that. Why are we so obsessed with that? because that's what sent them to court. When you say, you did this to her, oh yeah, what's the motive? If you don't have a motive, or the intention, you kind of sit around, I don't know, I think you need a motive. Well, actually, you don't. And in public health, I don't care what you did. You might have had great motives, but there is a downside to everything. And that's the third principle. The downside to everything. No matter what you try to do with best intentions, there's always some downside we gotta look at, and that's where the precautionary principle comes in. The good side is the benefits, the downside is the risk. Risk, benefit, weigh it against each other. And then you can use it. Okay. Well, isn't there some special case? Haven't you bent the rules? How about you never bent the rules? Well, once in a while, we bend the rules. And here's the rule to bend the rules. If you're having a crisis, full-blown outbreak, like swine flu, or a new kind of flu, and it seems to be dangerous, and I haven't fully tested the safety of a vaccine. So I kind of know the benefits, but I don't know the downside. You're about to release something you don't really understand, but you're having a crisis. Well, you get to do it if you get everyone's informed consent, written informed consent. Now, in the informing part, when you say, please sign here, I'm about to give you this vaccine, you better understand that I kind of don't know what it does. But you're going to take a chance because it's killing us. Will you please sign here? I can even give a half information that I don't know the downside. He signs and we release the vaccine. Believe me, this is how we do it. This is how it must be done. And if somebody says, you don't do it yourself, I do it. I do it in Bangladesh. There is a vaccine against Shigella. The kids are dying. We have a vaccine. It's not fully tested. But when I give the vaccine, I get their informed consent. Duh, that's obvious. But this was a live vaccine. So it could go from the child to the mother and people who never took the vaccine. So we had to get the informed consent of the whole village, whether or not they volunteered for the vaccine. I mean, we have to do this. And meanwhile, I come back here in Hawaii, and I see strange stuff happens, and it really bothers me. Half my life was working drugs and vaccines, live vaccines, dead vaccines, clearing them with the FDA, Food and Drug Administration. Okay? The other part of my life was to coordinate the major countries, Japan, Australia, Canada, Europe, and the FDA. It's called harmonization. Let's all get on the same standard of what's acceptable for safety. So then we would bring out certain products, and for Egypt, they said, can't we make our own vaccine? Yeah, you can. You can use it, but it's not to be sold. For China, they wanted to sell it, but they couldn't come up to these standards. Now they're trying, but they can't. We work so hard standardizing the process of safety, and then I come here and I see weird stuff going on, and it bothers me. First weirdness is number one. Don't read intention. People told me that we're having spraying in the air, way up high in the air. The jets leave a trail, and the trail is not of anything that we remember as children. Believe me, I used to see the jet trail, and we used to play, and it disappears. But there's some strange trails being left up in the atmosphere. So they brought the movie, I kind of read about it, and I'm kind of reading about it, and I hear what they say. I hear what they say as their intention, and they're giving me all these different intentions. But finally, I had to call the guy from California, and I finally found the book with the text. This is pretty mainstream, it's called Science News. It's pretty mainstream. There's an article called The Climate Fixers. And these are really mainstream scientists tell you that we can change global warming. The intention is global warming. It's not mind control. It's not trying to ruin your crops so that you do GM crops. It actually is to reverse global warming. Now, this, that's the best one. See that on that wall? There's a URL, on the website. you can cut this down and you can print it. My secretary says, show them you can print, show you can print, so you can print it. So I don't have to have hand out anymore, okay? But that's the first one called Chem Trail.